We're live.
Greetings, everyone. How's everything going? We are here today, March 15th, 2026, live and direct with just another quick, well, not quick, but another episode of In the Cypher. I'm your co-host, Kujo Brown,
I'm your other co-host, the bad guy.
and welcome to In the Cypher. We got a lot to talk about. We know everything is weighing in heavy on people, so we're going to hit you with some tech stuff. We're going to hit you with some political stuff. I got a little cultural stuff I think you might like too, bad guy.
All right, all right.
This is about Jack Harlow. I want to talk about the Jack Harlow thing going down. I don't know if you paid attention to that. Yeah, but you know he's funny style. So let's let's dive into this heavy stuff first. Wait a minute. You want to do the Doge stuff? Let's
Yeah,
do the
let's
Doge stuff.
start with the Doge boys.
So let me say this, man. It's something that you mentioned when we were just talking on air, off air for a few moments about the fact that they do not like being called out because they know what they're doing is essentially wrong. And do you
It's
want
not
to
even so much being
elaborate?
called out. It's not
Yeah,
even so
elaborate
much.
on it.
So I don't think it's a problem with them being called out. What has them so uncomfortable in that video footage is the fact that in that back and forth questioning, they're being made to verbalize the things that they believe, and in verbalizing it, you you can't verbalize that without accepting that it's bullshit, right? What you were saying about the kid where they asked him about why they canceled a Holocaust program, and his answer was because it centers Jews. There's another one in there, I think, where they're asking him about some women's program or some program that is affiliated with women. And his answer was essentially the same thing, that the reason why they canceled it is because it focused on women. Didn't bash men or nothing. It just specifically mentioned women. It's wild. It's like I'm watching this kid say it and I'm thinking to myself, is the goal to only mention white males in society? Is that it? Are- I don't know if these people realize how much of a caricature of their own beliefs they've become. Cause like I get coming from a group that is always centered in our country and seeing that slip away and feeling uncomfortable about it. It's a
I
normal
don't.
reaction. Hold on. It's a normal reaction to respond negatively when you're losing your standing at work, in a relationship. Hold on. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying that it's okay. All I'm saying is I can understand the reaction to it. What I don't get is that you feel so triggered by it that you have to essentially make a joke of yourself like you're a toddler needing every single bit of attention, and the moment attention is paid elsewhere, you throw a tantrum, because that's what they've done for years. The moment that it's not about Christianity, they're stealing our country. The moment it's not about heterosexuality, they're trying to turn our kids into gays, right? There's always some victim card to play. And it's just, I feel like when they actually are forced to verbalize these beliefs, because I do believe that those guys believe those things, but when they're forced to verbalize it to other people who are not just going to agree with them, they realize how stupid they sound.
Hmm. I don't know if like my thing is this. I don't know if because being white male and centered is hasn't gone anywhere. What they're
No, I'm not
It's
saying
the
that go
thing.
ahead, go ahead.
No. The thing that I'm saying is just that I think the contempt part I think is 110% accurate. I do think one of the problems though that they're facing is that it's very difficult to come right out and say what they want to say, which is I'm a racist, I'm a bigot, I'm a misogynist, and all those things, and I don't believe in anybody else except for us. That's the truth of the matter that they can't come out and say. So that's the
That's the
reason why,
uncomfortability.
yeah,
You're
that's the
right. You
reason why
nailed it. That's the
yeah,
uncomfortability.
they can't go there. So it's a very, damning space for them to be in because ultimately you know what you're doing is incorrect as a whole based on quote unquote society, but these are unwritten rules in quote unquote America that we all know about white males, heterosexual white males being centered. And I can even make an argument that non-heterosexual white males do pretty well in this environment too, i.e. Peter Thiel. So there's aspects of this
Well,
that have
yeah, no, look, you don't have to limit it to Peter Thiel. While they might not be universally accepted, gay white men are doing good in this motherfucker. Gay white men are killing it.
Yeah, because I mean, look at we have to be honest about this. The ones that are politically not on the left
Hmm.
are doing very well because they can be utilized as tools for the right in order to get where they want to get what they want to get. Because the right could then say, "Well, see, we got a gay here, we got a black guy, we got a black
See, but
woman."
that's the thing is what you just described is every single member of the right wing coalition. Everyone
Hmm.
is there except for obviously the donors, right? The Miriam Adelsons, the
Hmm.
Peter
Hmm.
Thiels, the Elon Musks. All of these other, well, you might not want to include Elon Musk. That guy's
Right.
a fucking moron. Anyway, they're all there to fill a role, but they're being used. It's not like they're filling a role to achieve a purpose. They're filling a role so that they can say, you see, we got one of those. They're like animals in a zoo.
Hmm.
We got one of
Hmm.
those over there. We got our Hispanic. We got little Marco.
Can you stop 1 second right there? What do you think about this? Do you
Boy,
notice, and I gotta ask you this because this is something that I paid attention to. In this administration, if you really look at it, Marco Rubio has multiple hats. And if I'm correct, nobody else in the administration has that many hats as
no,
him. And he happens to be the only one of the
Jared
few,
Kushner.
Jared Kushner, but
It's different. It's different. You're right.
yeah, yeah.
You're right. It's different.
Like, do you notice that they're using him to such a huge degree? Like to say, it's almost as if to say, if you want to be in this white space, well, here's what you're gonna have to do, Spanish speaking nigger. You're
Yep.
gonna have you're gonna have to do extra work.
You're gonna have to be a Spanish nigga, so
Yeah.
you gonna have to hustle harder.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a very, very noticeable thing that they did with him, and just couldn't believe it. And when he
And you
gets
know
up and
what?
speaks,
You know what?
one of the most articulate to me, by the way.
He's the most suited for the job. Putting on my devil's advocate for a second, it's unfortunate for Rubio. He is going to ruin his career.
Yeah,
If
I don't
he
think he
if he
cares.
Wow, man.
I don't think he
I don't
cares. I don't
know.
know.
He could have been the first Latin American president.
Nah, I don't think so. I don't think that
Yeah.
would
Oh
happen.
yeah. I think
They wouldn't
so.
allow it. They wouldn't allow it,
If
bro.
if hold on a second. Hold on a second. If Trump hadn't pissed away the Latin vote, which is how why they're going to lose both houses, right? Had he not pissed away the Latin vote and Marco Rubio done an even piss poor job in the role, they would have been smart to put him up because they already carved out a huge chunk of the Latino vote. Had they held on to it through the midterms, they wouldn't even be in this position. It would be smart to put him up. JD Vance is not winning.
No,
JD
not at
Vance
all.
is not winning. At least Rubio covers two bases.
Yeah, yeah. There's an aspect to that that's possible. I just
And then I'm sorry. And then
go
with
ahead.
the experience now of doing all the jobs, it's almost like a shoe in. It's a dope resume, but he's pissing it away.
Yeah, I think that I don't know. My opinion is I just think that most white Americans are too racist to vote for somebody that is non-white, that is quote unquote Latin, and even just speaks Spanish. That just infuriates
Happens
so
when
many
they're
white people.
what happens when their choices are Gavin Newsom or
Who knows? They might
they're
actually
not.
just pick Gavin because they don't want to. I'm telling you, you know this because
Uh
anybody that speaks another language, especially Spanish, there's a certain disdain for that because you have seen the
you're
memes
you're
and
not
videos.
wrong about that, but I think I think you're underestimating the willingness of Christians to vote for who they perceive as Christians.
I don't know about that. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah, I
because
think he would definitely good.
over God over God is race. So that's part of the reason why I don't think they will vote for him. Like every church in America is like church is one of the most segregated places. This is something Martin Luther King said. And so they are 110% going to vote for somebody that is more than likely white before they even vote for anybody that looks even close to what Jesus or anybody else from the Middle East even actually look like, to be honest. They're just racist, man. There's no getting around it,
You're
unfortunately.
not wrong. We've talked about this before, but the reason why Middle Easterners are considered white in America is because I don't know if it was Iranian or Syrian or something, but
Iran,
it was
Iran.
Iranian.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and they had to.
yeah, yeah. That was a mess.
What did the lawyer say? The lawyer, it was like three questions. The lawyer asked him, where's my client from? Where's
Hmm.
Jesus from? What color is Jesus? Oh,
I'm
dude, that's
telling
a
you.
serious. I understand why you don't underestimate the racism. I understand
Yeah,
it
I just
totally.
can't. I just can't, bruh. Like I just don't see it as a thing. It's definitely it's steady and it's been there for a long time. But circling back to what we were speaking about in regards to the Doge scenario, is definitely there is definitely the contempt that you mentioned. And I do agree, like it's to a huge degree, they think and feel like they're losing. And that's what it comes across as.
Hmm.
But the reality of the situation is if they feel like they're losing, like who the fuck is winning? Like I just don't even understand that. Like
Well, but
if you're
you got to keep in mind that in a power dynamic, the even an infinitesimal loss of power, no matter whether your opponent receives that power, it just sits there kind of in a vacuum, or it goes to a third group that you weren't thinking about, right? That little shift in power. The tiniest loss of power to the group on top seems like so much more than you being bestowed that power, right? So if it's a one for one, if it's a zero sum game, the most minute loss from the power position is felt even more because you're becoming more even, and they see everything, bro. I mean, we've seen it with Hollywood movies. They get upset when fictional characters aren't, white.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, Star Wars was a very big indication
dude
of that,
dude,
buddy.
I had somebody one day try to justify why gods of Egypt was white people, but it wasn't okay to make the Little Mermaid black.
Yeah, it's just utterly ridiculous. But that speaks volumes. That speaks volumes to their level of like racism and where they come from. You could kind of gauge them just on that and understand that there's certain spaces and conversations you can't really have with them because they're either not willing to actually expand their mind, and also they're just set in their ways because they feel like that's the way things should be because of that. And intelligence, a lot of it, man, is the ability, because remember, right, these scientists, these great thinkers, these people that are out here, they're actually expanding their thoughts and trying to figure out different ways to do things that's more efficient, technologically advanced. I mean, everything that we see medical wise in the medical
Hmm.
field, they have to experiment and they have to come up with new ideas, and you have to be a liberal kind of mind to do that in certain instances. It still doesn't mean you can't be racist and misogynist and practice misandry and all those other things mixed up, but it does play a role in your creativity, being able to open your mind and see more and know more.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was just actually reading a study the other day where more intelligent people, they IQ tested a bunch of like teenagers, middle of high school, and then
Hmm.
tracked them till they were in their 30s. And the higher IQ scoring kids were more liberal as
Mm,
adults. The lower IQ scoring kids tended to be more conservative as adults.
interesting.
I've actually heard a few studies. There's another one. It's not the medulla oblongata, but there's a portion of in the front of your brain that is responsible for your fear response.
Hmm.
And I actually had somebody trying to brag that conservatives have a that portion of their brain is larger and stronger than liberals, where when they've measured more progressive people, those centers of their brain aren't as dominant when they respond. So what it means is if you get a stronger response from that, you're more fearful, you're more likely
Mm,
to react
hmm.
from fear.
Right. Right.
So the bragging point here is that you're scared of everything, which plays out
Right.
100%. It plays out. They're scared
Hmm.
of which, and I've been doing with since this whole Iran thing. I've been doing a lot of diving more into the comparisons of our religions, but
I do think
fear.
that, yeah.
American Christians are afraid of Muslims. Muslims believe the same thing that Christians believe. We almost all the way up to the end of our belief systems, it's exactly the same. They differ a little bit from us at the end, but it's different. So Christians here are afraid of it.
Mm.
Homosexuality and now transgenderism, they're afraid of it because it's different. It challenges whatever is the norm to them, and they don't understand how to react to that challenge except out of fear. And what does an animal do when it's scared? It either runs or it fights,
Yeah, feels like it's
right?
cornered. Feels like
And
things are
that's
caving
why
in.
if you look at conservative reactions to things, a war on Christmas, a war on Christianity, everything is a war on because they don't understand how to not fight something. It's either fight or feel oppressed.
Hmm. Hmm.
Those are the only two things they understand.
Yeah, I do think the cultural aspect is major. I think you make a good point there. Well, the mental, I should say, not the cultural, but I'm concerned because
It is
there are
cultural though. It is cultural. You're not wrong there either.
yeah, I'm concerned though, like because one of the points that I think we spoke about prior is the fact that there is some aspects of their behavior that may be somehow genetic. There may be some genetic disposition, from what I'm understanding, that you're even elaborating on, that actually causes some of their
Yes,
behavior.
there are some, but that's not, well, I don't know if I can say that it's if it's genetic down to race. It's
No,
genetic
no.
to humans, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Humans tend to do this because, yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah, some people are more genetically disposed to having stronger fear reactions, right? But
Yeah.
even beyond politics and religion, a stronger reaction to, a stronger fear reaction that might cause you to not be more adventurous. That might cause you to not explore more. That might cause you to not do research into other things, right? If your first reaction to everything different is fear, you're always going to be stuck behind that fear. You're never going to get past it.
You're stuck in the cave.
And that what is conservative? Conservative is not wanting to change things, not wanting to move forward, not
Yeah.
wanting progress.
Now, we could elaborate that on that with Democrats and Republicans because they also both don't want to see the system change, which is
No,
very
no,
clear that the system is in need of grave changing. But going back to the Doge guys, the other part is both of these cats are very well off. Neither one of them are poor or
nope,
lacking money. So
nope.
they were getting paid like $100,000 or 150K or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. So you have to say to yourself, what are the purpose of them doing this? And me and my lady were talking earlier about this. And the reality of the situation is, wait a minute, this seems like they're just doing it for the sheer hatred of
Yes,
other
they
people.
wanted to hurt people. That's what I was thinking. As soon as you started asking that question, I was like, because they fucking hate people. Yeah,
There you
no, no,
go.
no.
Yeah.
First of all, the one that they keep asking what's in the EO, and he says he did it because it was in the EO, and they ask him what's in it, and he says he doesn't know, and then they asked him, so how did you know what to do because it was in the EO? And he just kept going around in that circle. That fucking guy looks like American Psycho.
You know who he looks like? He looks like he could be Elon Musk's little son, brother. If you
He
look at his
does look
face,
he does look like he's got the tism too. He
and
does.
you see how he talks too. He talks kind of like Elon as well. Like
Well, I
Elon's a
think no,
sicko,
no, no,
dude.
no, 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 no. I think that's an affect. I think they're Elon, amazingly, is another one of those cult of personality types. That's who does good on the right. Joe Rogan, cult of personality. Trump, cult of personality. Elon Musk, similar. I think you're going to start seeing a lot of when they start talking to these guys, they're talking like that because that's how Elon talks.
I see your point. See your point. They follow in the lead, basically,
Mm-hmm.
straight up clones, and it's
And
ill
but
though.
that's the problem. That's the thing is that the
Goes back to conservative,
what
right?
well, not just conservative. I was going to say that's cultural. When you don't really have any identifiable culture outside of your skin color or your religious beliefs,
Uh,
you
uh.
start glomming on to things like Trump, to things like Elon Musk. And I'm not saying that that's a white thing. That happens on all sides. Um, if everything is, I don't want to say if everything is about the color of your skin, but if how can you explain this? Because I don't want to make it sound like racism isn't a thing. If you feel like everything is a challenge to your identity and your
Mm-hmm.
identity is solely
Mm-hmm.
I'm a white man or I'm
Right.
a a black woman, then you're simplifying situations that can be way more than just it's because of this. Situations are
Hmm.
layered, and people like that don't seem to see that. Like I said, the even slightest reduction in my share is a zero sum game. So if you've even if it's a collective takeaway, all the different various groups of other people took away 1% of my collective power, I'm going to be mad, even though
Yeah.
they only got like 0.1% each.
Right, right. I do think that there's some serious mental part there we spoke about. And I remember having work on this. There is work by this author. I forgot. I think it's called, yes, here it is. It's a book I should check out. It's very small. It's by a guy named Robert Jensen, and it's called The Heart of Whiteness. And
Mm-hmm.
he discusses it a lot. And I think one of the things that you mentioned is somebody's actually being tied to the only thing really being their skin complexion. And that means it's a statement that another podcaster made. I got to give him his props. His podcast is called The Cows, Gus T. And he said basically, he said, what does it mean to be white? What does it really mean? Does that?
Okay, so and I think that's where I was getting hung up, is because there's an answer to what does it mean to be black. There's an answer to what does it mean to be, at least in this country, in the place where we're experiencing this. There's an answer to what does it mean to be Chinese American. There's an answer to what does it mean to be Colombian in America, right?
Hmm.
There's not
Hmm.
really an answer to what does it mean to be white. Y'all have everything.
There's an answer. They just won't like the answer. And to be
No,
white
but
is
that's what
to,
there's
yeah.
nothing to identify with. The only thing to identify with is that y'all have that, not that they have everything, but that you are the power structure. That's the only thing to identify with. And then if you identify with being the power structure, you have to accept slavery, you have to accept
Hmm.
Jim Crow, you have to accept the mistreatment of the Indian, right? You have to accept all these things, and they don't want to. That's the problem. That's the piece of their own culture that they're unwilling to accept, and
Yeah.
without it they don't have anything to identify to.
I do think you raise a good point. There's a lot of psychological, like at this point in the history right now, there's a unique part of like a psychological breakdown that's definitely happening within their communities. And the reality of the situation, what does it mean to be white? Well, if you're a white person and you don't practice racism and you're around other white people and you treat other people that are non-white equal to you, other white people that do practice racism will call you out. They will be
Mm-hmm.
like, "What are you doing? Like, don't you know how we move? Like how we treat?" You understand what I'm saying? It's like as if it's like I forgot. I think that movie was You Can't Buy Me Love. I don't know if you remember that movie, man. It's an old movie back in the days. Dude paid a girl to date him so he could become popular. And, then he became popular. But then when he was hanging out with the cool kids, they would go Halloween and they would
Mm-hmm.
go out in Halloween and go bomb and egg houses and all that other stuff, right? So in the process of doing that, dude actually ends up at the front door of one of his friends. And he didn't know that his friend's house was the one that got shit thrown on it.
I've seen that movie.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Now think about this, right? Like the minute he was in the van though, and they were on the way there,
Mm-hmm.
the guy said when he found out what they were going to do and who they were going to do it to, which was his best friend,
Mm-hmm.
he was like, nah, 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 I'm do everything else, but I'm not going to do that. And immediately when he did that, those dudes pounced on him and were like, see, he's not about it. He's not about that. And that's the same kind. And I'm oversimplifying, folks, but this is the same concept when it comes to whiteness, which is if you don't throw that egg or throw that shit at that house, there will be people that will call you out. And to me, one of my codes, and I think everybody should have their own codes, Nelly Fuller Jr. stuff on codes, by the way, is you should be able to spot out decent white people by how other white people interact with them. And if other white people don't like them because they don't practice racism, you might have some decent white people right there. You know what I'm saying? It
Yeah, no,
sounds
no, no,
messed
no.
up.
I don't disagree with you, but then when I start to think about it, like, do I even know any? I'm not
Mm.
saying that I don't value any of my white friends any less, but I've also accepted that, you know, some of my white friends are raised. Well, not some. I think I
You think a lot of them are, bro. Come
well,
on, admit
but
it.
okay. So if you remove the power structure piece of, institutional racism or systematic racism, if you remove that and it's just the not liking of other races or not liking of other people of a certain whatever, I think in a way we all suffer from that. I have groups of
Yeah.
people that I don't like, whether it's by color, by region of origin. There's a group out there that all of us don't like. Not a single
Mm,
group that we all don't like.
I don't know,
Yeah,
man.
no, there's a
Like,
single group out there that everyone doesn't like.
you
MAGA.
think so?
Yeah, MAGA.
MAGA. Oh, okay. Yeah. Not enough.
No, but I'm
But
saying,
here's the
go ahead,
thing,
go ahead.
though. Not enough to actually push back to make
No,
concerted,
no, and that's the
organized,
difference. That's
galvanized
the difference.
differences.
I don't, and that's why it's so weird to see them get so bent out of shape whenever anything doesn't go exactly or isn't centered on them. It's that none of this is going to take away from what y'all have, right? That's not I mean, I would pray that one day it happens, but it's not happening tomorrow. This incident that y'all are upset about is not it. This
Hmm.
is not the trigger for the great replacement theory, right?
Yeah, yeah. And Dr. Frances Cress Welsing would call it white genetic annihilation. She's been saying this since like, I don't even know, since like the early 80s. It's a really good work on some of these dynamics of language and the erasure of whiteness and what they're really concerned about. Because again, she says it, not me. She said Hitler had the supreme white state. What was he concerned about? Interbreeding with so called non white Aryan people, Jews, blacks, etc., down the line, gypsies, and all of that. He was
Mm-hmm.
not interested in that. And that's the same thing that's been transplanted over here. Sorry, they got it from over here from Jim Crow, to be quite frank.
Yeah, I was gonna say some of our laws and some of the tactics that were used against blacks in America were too extreme for the Nazis at first.
Ugh, they took
I
it
mean,
to a whole nother level.
eventually they got down the road.
Yeah.
Like they didn't they looked at some of the stuff that had been done here and were like, nah, chill, hold on.
Well, one of the things that was big here was eugenics, because what they used to do, obviously, was anybody that they considered not particularly the breed of white American they like, they
Mm-hmm.
did things to make sure that person would not breed. They made sure that that person would not stay fertile. That's something that they would
Mm.
actually do, and I thought it was fascinating. And anybody could go look
Well,
this
no,
up.
okay. I do know what you're talking about because I know they were very quick to sterilize people back in the day.
Yeah, but this goes back to actually the Europe. In the UK, this is when the eugenics movement actually first started, and then it got pushed. And for some reason, and I have to do more research on this, folks. This is something that where a space where Darwin actually his theories were utilized to actually influence some of the eugenics. I don't know if he agreed with it or not. Possibly yes, possibly no. That's something that again everybody else could look into. But obviously, the movement came to the United States, and see Germany saw it, blah, 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 and you know what it is. And that still happens today, by the way, folks. Don't think
Mm-hmm.
that's gone. But yeah, going back to these Doge boys and this one and the Cypher podcast, folks, we didn't even get to the other stuff yet. These Doge boys are keeping us active. But yeah, I do think again you raised some good points in regards to what their issues are with even being interviewed or in the deposition. I believe that they were going through with the lawyers at the time.
And we didn't even touch on the fact that one of them was caught. I think the new company he went to, he offered certain taxpayer PPI that he got his hands on,
Mm,
private identifiable information that he was able to get his hands on while working at Doge. And the company reported him, I believe, to the FBI that he was trying to offer them this as a new employee. Yeah, dude,
there,
that was a shit show.
yeah, there was a lot of there's a lot of knowledge that they may have gotten to so many social security numbers, so much personal private data that only the
Mm-hmm.
government actually has, and
Yep.
they took it and ran. And I think that's the dangerous part about them that is not mentioned. And something we'll have a conversation about later on today about security and about privacy and on a different level. But
Hmm.
we'll get into In the Cypher podcast, folks. Like, share, subscribe. Your man, the bad guy in the building. I'm your other host, Kujo Brown. So let's dive into the war, man. This war in Iran. I mean, I don't see this ending anytime soon, but
No.
I could be incorrect because it is highly unpopular, and the other part of it is financially, it's hurting a lot of businesses, and that could put pressure on him to actually stop doing it and to pull back. But I could be incorrect. I could be
Yeah,
incorrect.
I mean, I don't see a full end to hostilities anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's now demanding that NATO countries and other, I guess, US aligned countries send their navies as well.
Yes. China refused.
We have the greatest navy in the world, at least at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And let's, also be 100% honest, what constitutes great nowadays, because the big expensive bombers, the big expensive F-15s, they're nice. I mean, they shoot and they blow stuff up, but that's not going to really help right now in Iran. That's not going to, will it level Tehran? Yes, but will you be able to get on the ground in there and control the actual country? No, that's not going to happen. Not
Mm.
unless we spend a lot of lives. If you just
Hmm.
map of the Strait of Hormuz, bro, it's all very unwelcoming, very rocky terrain throughout on both sides.
Yeah.
So, a lot of what we have, and you'll have to look for it on the internet. You can find it on YouTube, but there's a lot of video of what's happening in Tel Aviv. And it might
Mm-hmm.
not be on the same level as what's happening in Tehran, but there's a lot of destruction in Tel Aviv right now. Right?
Mm-hmm.
This
Mm-hmm.
is this is not turning out how I think either Israel or the United States thought it was going to turn out. And if we pull tail, we lose. And I don't think that the Secretary of Defense, or I'm sorry, he identifies as the Secretary of War. Uh, doesn't
Man.
know about pronouns, but he does
Yeah.
know he identifies as the
Comical.
Secretary of War.
Comical.
Man, if that's not the most DEI shit, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. I do.
But I don't see him backing down. I don't see whoever's feeding Trump the information that has him so willing to do all this backing down.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think Netanyahu played a role in that, but I understand that this is a couple of things that could happen, which is number one, we continue with the war and keep going on, and we may destroy Iran, but in the process, we definitely destroy ourselves, and we also cause great harm to the Middle East in the process.
And
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 our
that's go ahead. Go ahead.
and our country will never be the same. We won't recover, and our image on a national, international scale will be bad. The second one, I think, is we strike a deal, right? We strike a deal and say, look, how about this, that, and the third? We give you this and that. One of the things when I say this and that, I mean is sanctions, because Iran is heavily sanctioned. So they would seek to get that lifted. And then they would also seek to be able to do trade with other countries that they may have not been able to do trade with before. Then also, they would probably ask for a deal saying, look, you guys cannot come back here and bomb us in the next 2, 3, whatever, how many years after we have this negotiation. Because again, remember, literally right after they negotiated with them last time, they bombed the shit out of Iran. And then
So
they
why
did
would
it.
they trust that deal?
Well, that's the thing, is that the only reason why they would be able to do that deal is if the US knows that is losing, and they know that this is the only way to keep oil prices at a decent pace, because we can't keep taking from our reserves and finding other ways to get oil instead of actually utilizing it the regular way that we've been doing. Do you think,
So real quick,
go ahead.
last week I read that the Venezuelan parliament is voting on opening up business with U.S. oil companies.
Yeah, yeah. I heard about that.
Hold on. And the supposedly the damage that's been done to the CENTCOM infrastructure
Mm-hmm.
in the Middle East is not going to be repairable for a long time. And then I think the third thing that we need to consider is that supposedly the new leader of Iran is not a jihadist. He's into the apocalypse as much as the ultra religious Zionists and the Christian Zionists are into their own apocalypse. He's down for that smoke. They have nothing to lose. Um, I don't think that that this I don't think this ends with them capitulating. They've already been offered a ceasefire after a couple of days of exchanges, and they turned it down. So I don't know that they are going to.
I don't think that that's a scenario that's going to happen. I think it's a case where they will definitely try to make another deal, strike another deal, negotiation, but it's only going to be after they
But why?
hurt the
What
intern. They're going to hurt the
gives them?
international economy. That's what they're going to do.
What reason do they have to trust any deal that has Israel involved?
Well, that's my point. Is that they're gonna
Israel's never stuck to a ceasefire. They're
never.
almost as bad as Russia.
But this is my point is that I think Iran would probably continue hurting the international economy, not just Israel. Israel is like going to get a piece of this too, but the other part is Iran is going to take as much of a part in destroying other infrastructures within the Middle East that actually help US oil. And it's going to cause so much issues, so many issues internationally, which it already has caused because we've seen the market take its hit and continue taking hits that at this stage, we don't really see any way that they would back up until they severely hurt us and the international scene. And let's be
I
frank, as
think that's what they want.
yeah,
I
they're going to
think
keep
that's the goal.
yeah, they're going to keep doing that. But as much as they're doing this, China has basically backed off and said, "Look, we're not supporting anything the US is doing because this is where we get most of our oil."
China and Russia are giving Iran intelligence.
Correct.
So
Yes.
they're not involved. They've chosen the side.
Yeah, they've definitely chosen a side. But the other part too is that China is making moves to get off of oil. And that's one of the things that I think is major that people don't seem to understand. They're literally leading the way to get a new renewable energy to do that faster than we have. And we're regressing and doing
This
the
the
opposite.
the supply of diamonds has nothing to do with the price of diamonds.
Hmm.
The availability of oil is more important than the fact that they need it,
Hmm.
because the availability of oil directly affects our. So do you understand what a petrodollar is?
I think so. I think break it down.
So
Break it down
a
for me and the listeners.
a petrodollar is literally what our economy is built on.
Yes.
These oil producing countries that we are on good terms with have agreed with America to trade in American dollars, and their money is the money that they receive from the United States is in the form of US bonds, right? They also invest that back into the stock market. So they're literally pumping this money in the stock market. If no one believes me, Trump's crypto coin, which might not be on the stock market, but it is the same principle, is more than 50% owned by Saudi Arabia, is it? One of these
Hmm.
Middle Eastern countries.
They invested heavily.
And that they invest heavily in our stock market. If they
Hmm.
pull that investment from our stock market, not only does oil go up in price, but our as oil rises in price, our stock market crashes
Hmm.
because they're so heavily invested in it. Our economy is literally propped up by petrodollars.
Yes, yes. So one of the things I think that we could mention too is that just last week, I believe this was March 10th, BlackRock just told investors they can't have their money back and the entire private credit industry is shaking. So
Mhm.
basically what happened is investors came back to these private investment funds and were like, look, we want our money because we don't see things going that well here. And BlackRock said, no, you can't have all your money back. Now,
Bank run.
I don't know about you,
That's a
but
bank run.
if wealthy people are saying we want our money back, yo, yo, yo,
So hold
like,
on. Wealthy people in that moment just found out that they're not even better than us. because
Yeah.
their bank told them no. What you just described is what we would, me and you being, customers of banks would call a bank run.
Hmm.
Shit, the banks are going under. Let me get my money out. Everyone goes, and they're like, wait a second, we can't give y'all all that money.
Yeah.
Right?
It didn't
That's
work like
exactly
that.
what happened to these stockholders.
Hmm.
And now their money's being held hostage because without that money, it's a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, yeah. It's sad, right? But this is the reality of the situation where, and I don't say sad, they're wealthy people. It's a private investment fund, so they're going to be okay. I'm not worried about them. It's the people with the 401ks like myself and others
Mm-hmm.
that are listening that should be concerned and should have some doubt. In the Cypher podcast, folks, like, share, subscribe. And one of the things that we could talk about too is the trading with Israel. There's still countries that are trading at high levels with Israel right now. And
Mm-hmm.
one of them, the top three, we'll just go through real quick. The list is a good 25, and they're predominantly white countries, European countries.
Yep.
Also, South Korea's in there, Brazil's in there.
There's a
I
lot of
believe,
emerging countries on that list.
yeah, India's in there. Surprisingly, I don't understand that. There are a bunch of countries that are on there as well, and including Turkey, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But the top two, I think, is worth a mention. One of them is Ireland. Ireland trades at like, or has trading between like 3.3 billion, I believe.
I
The
think they
r-
have some of the most diverse trade with them too.
I think what they mainly trade in is, so with them, I'll give this rundown real quick for folks. Israel's exports to Ireland have exploded since 2021. In 2020, exports to Ireland totaled just 198 million. In 2021, this figure skyrocketed to 1.44 billion, growing year on year to add to last year. In 2024, it was 3.26 billion. Whew. What's behind these numbers and how do they help explain the government's inaction on the genocide in Gaza? From their unwillingness to fully enact the Occupied Territories Bill, OTB, to stop the sale of Israeli war bonds through the central bank, or to close the Shannon airport to the US Army. So basically, what I've seen here, and this is a breakdown, I'm going to summarize the rest, is that a lot of what they're doing is it's tax friendly to be there, number one. Most multinational corporations are there. And then there's also a finance side that's there, there's a tech side that's
Mm-hmm.
there, and there's also a pharmaceutical sector that's there.
Yeah, that's apparently the big one too. So
Yes, yes.
pharmaceuticals as well as chemical compounds used in drug manufacturing.
Mm.
Apparently, Ireland is a huge hub for pharma companies.
Pharma companies, yeah. Yeah. So this trading number surprised me, being the fact that historically, and we spoke about this off air, bad guy, which was, folks, bad guy said something that I agree with. I would have, I would like to see Ireland to visit there as well. I agree with you, brother.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think about this? The fact that they were one of the first countries colonized by the Brits, but historically, it doesn't seem like they've learned anything from that. I'm just
Well,
saying.
no, I wouldn't say historically. One, I don't want to attribute the actions of a government to the people directly. A lot of times, and we have plenty of examples of it here.
Fair enough.
A lot of times you elect people and they say they're going to do a thing and then they go and do the complete opposite. Sometimes people tell you they're going to do it and you say, no, they're not going to do it. And then they do it anyway. That's where
Right.
we're at. But there's
Yep.
other cases too where, they just lie to us. Anyway,
Right.
but I would have assumed that even as a country, that Ireland would have been more sympathetic to oppressed people, right?
Agreed. Agreed.
Just their history of oppression by the people that ruled the world before we came along.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think I was surprised by this too. And then, so again, like in the midst of this, you see this profit happening and generating at some skyrocketing, accounts. And obviously, it's been even higher since this genocide started in Palestine. So
Hmm.
that's concerning, the fact that they're still doing business with them. And then the other part, the other group that's doing business is mainland China. China is definitely benefiting. Since 1992, they've been doing business together. China is Israel's second largest trading partner globally, trading mainly in the
Well,
beginning military
real
tech.
quick, real quick, just for some clarification, when you say one and two, uh, Cujo means not including the United States because we are the biggest by far.
By
But
far.
outside of the United States, Ireland and then China, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, they started off with military tech and agricultural training, and then investments in Israeli infrastructure, including terminals in Hafif,
Hmm.
Ashdod, and Tel Aviv light rail system. It's interesting. It's around the same time here. Israelis exports to Ireland. Sorry, pardon, not Ireland. Since the establishment of the diplomatic ties in 1992, China and Israel have recognized their natural economic complementary. China provides vast markets, strong manufacturing capacity, and capital, while Israel contributes cutting-edge innovation and R&D. This pairing has proven mutually beneficial. Chinese firms have looked to Israeli expertise in areas such as agriculture, water saving, medical devices, semiconductor design, while Israeli companies rely on China's scale and investment
Hmm.
to commercialize their ideas. So these two have another type bond that is extremely disturbing. Again, because this is military, right? It's
Well, not just
military.
military, it's the Israel's already in good with, you know, maybe not on a field of battle at this moment, but our biggest rival globally is China.
Hmm.
And they are comfortably in bed with China,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And it just makes you wonder because who really has the most to gain from a diminished US position in the Middle East?
I think Israel does.
Yes.
Israel does. I think
Yes.
they would benefit greatly from seeing the US fall, and they would just be the next they would kind of be
And
the
not
next
not
superpower.
necessarily fall, just fall off of the Middle East stage, which is a big fall for us. Yes, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean like America get wiped out. Just no longer viable in the Middle East. And if we're no longer viable in the Middle East and that Middle East money is what's propping up our stock market, what does that mean?
Mhm. Mhm. And I'll be quite frank, I think if things don't go the way Netanyahu expects it to go or wants it to go, I think he would push the button for the nuke. I think he would do it for on Iran. I honestly don't see any reason why not, because he's a psycho and he's already been labeled as the quote unquote,
Well, not to jump into rumors, but he might not be pushing nothing.
what do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm just saying what I've seen online or what I also haven't seen online, which is much of Benjamin Netanyahu. I did read a report that his house, the house that his brother was in at the time, mysteriously just went up in flames and had like they said it was a fire. And I'm not laughing at the person who might have been hurt or might not have been hurt, that might have been there or might not have been there. I'm just laughing at the circumstances of it all. It's like, so apparently his brother is dead. They haven't, at least as of the time we started recording this, he hasn't been on television or anywhere publicly.
Mm,
And then just before we hopped on, I had seen like two or three stories about a supposed AI Netanyahu speech where somebody spotted him with six fingers.
mm,
So, I don't know, obviously. I'm just saying he might not be able to push nothing.
interesting. I'm just, again, this is conjecture.
I don't think it's to Israel's benefit to drop a nuke. Um
Why?
well, because what they want is more physical land to fall under their borders.
How
And
long does it take to the radiation to clear out again? I think it takes a little while, right? So if
well,
they were
yeah,
to
I mean,
drop a nuke,
if you're talking about nuclear weapons, that's fallout. That takes a long time.
yeah, yeah, it
So
takes time.
and there's no way long term to predict the fallout.
Yeah, I'm curious about that because I don't see any reason why Netanyahu still wouldn't do it. I just don't. I think he would do it, and that's one of the things about quote unquote being sovereign, I think, folks, which is, and I don't think history has proven me wrong, which is the only way you could really claim sovereignty in these days and times as a country is if you have a nuke. Because if you're willing to push the button, as long as you have the nuke yourself, America and other major countries will stay away and go, okay, well, we don't like what you're doing, but we're not, we're just gonna let you know, but we don't want to get into no fight with you because you small. Like that's the kind of attitude America will take and
I
other
think
European
there's a
countries.
better chance. I think there's a better chance of Iran maybe dropping a dirty bomb or something, or taking some drastic measure before. It,
Iran is going to increase gradually. I think, from my knowledge, their missile system is thorough. So one of the things that,
man,
yeah, so
dude,
they've been waiting for this for some time. So
yeah.
they haven't
So
really even
apparently,
started.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Apparently, I was watching a reporter out of. He was reporting out of Iran. He was Iranian, but he was either born in the U.S. or raised here. He spoke very, very, very good American English. And the analysis he was giving was what we've seen so far up until the introduction of these cluster bombs was essentially Iran's old
Yes.
missile
Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
missile array,
Mm-hmm.
which the Israeli systems were set up for, but not at the volume that they were thrown.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so they still were getting through with some of these older munitions.
Yeah, they were getting through the
Then,
so-called Iron Dome with old weapons.
well, it was because they took advantage of the one weakness that the Iron Dome has, which is volume.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If
Mm-hmm.
you need to shoot off 1 to 2 missiles, maybe more, for every missile that comes your way, you're eventually going to run low, especially if I can just dump a whole load of old shit and then wait to start throwing my new shit that you weren't ready for.
Mm.
Which, of all things, the US and Israel are crying. I don't know if it's to the UN or to somebody, but they're complaining about the munitions that Iran is using, saying that they're like, banned by the Geneva Convention or some shit.
Boy, they got some nerve. I just look at it from this standpoint is that this is just the beginning. And there's only a few ways out for these other countries such as Israel and America. And for Israel, if they're able to maintain some type of civilization or some kind of country, even while their own people are protesting them, and people here, by the way, in New York City, Hasidic Jews have also been protesting the actions going on there. Even if they're able to maintain after that, I still think it's going to be very difficult for them to go into the next space of colonialism and colonize the next area that they want to go into.
They already started.
I think it's going to be
They
difficult
already
still.
started. They
I know
already
they started.
Okay, Lebanon. I was about to say they just started pushing into Lebanon.
Yeah, I know they started, but I just
And this
don't.
is the thing, is that they have us out there wasting ourselves, wasting our cache of weapons on Iran, which they started. Right, they didn't they let us know after the fact. They were like, we going in, you coming with us? So they started that, and now we're stuck there doing that, and they're taking offensive into the south of their country, or out past the southern borders.
From what I understand, they say that basically he got duped, and Trump got duped. He got duped in the sense that they said, "Look, if you don't go, we're going to go," and there was a high probability that Israel wasn't going to go because if they wanted to, they could have done it a long time ago. But they chose this time and place because they realized how, unfortunately, how incompetent Trump is. So they're
Mm-hmm.
utilizing that fact and going, this fool right here, this sucker. Let's let just run a line on him and see if he's gonna bite. And he bit. You know what I'm saying? Because ultimately they have so many cards to play with the Epstein files and with the business that they're doing. They have
Mm-hmm.
they have him in their clutches. So it's very, it's a very tricky space for him to be in. And I don't think it's going to work out well for us as a country ultimately. Again, these trading partners in the Cypher podcast, folks, like, share, subscribe. Again, your host Kujo Brown and my other host, the bad guy in the building. Like, these two trading partners surprised me. I have to admit, China surprised me, Ireland surprised me. It did catch me off guard, but that just shows you that these countries that are so-called like against this war, they're still making money off of this.
Yeah.
They're still making money off of this. That's
Hmm.
scary. Italy is still trading at 1.2 billion, even though people there are striking, by the way. Some of the men by the docks have literally stopped dead track and they're working. But there's a lot of places that are still trading. Singapore, Cyprus, Japan, Turkey, Switzerland, Canada is still trading as much as you know what I mean? Like these places.
What I find interesting is the amount of countries that are trading electronics of all sorts. So there's
Mhm.
electronics on the list for several countries, but there's also aerospace components, which is
Mm,
electronics, right?
right.
Defense equipment, electronics,
Mhm.
cybersecurity, electronics, right?
Mhm.
They're they're making a lot of money, and they're in a lot. You know, as a I guess as a country, they are in a lot of sensitive places all over the world.
Yes, yes. And I think that's what's happening is that, again, if the United States loses, Israel still wins to some degree.
Hmm.
How much, I don't know, but they definitely do win to some degree because now the pushback is not coming from here, obviously, not from our so-called people in charge. So that's the tough thing that we have to address and deal with in the Cypher podcast, folks. So let's dive into this cyber attack, bro. I'd like to hear a little bit more about this because you have a lot more data on this. Iran leaked hackers target U.S. medical tech company. Break it down.
So what happened was, I'll give everybody the what everybody thinks happened later, but what actually happened was someone from Iran breached the off the Microsoft 365 or Microsoft Azure accounts. It would have actually had to happen on Azure. So somebody must have breached an Azure account that had administrative access to Microsoft Intune, which
Mm,
is the mobile device management platform for Microsoft. And I'll stop there real quick. Now, what's in the news is like what you just read. Hackers breached the this company called Stryker that produces medical equipment and I believe medical software for that equipment, and they were able to wipe out thousands of machines, including personal phones.
mm,
So the popular opinion or what's going around the internet is that apparently this was some high tech hack. How did they get to these people's personal phones? None of your data is safe. This is proof that they have everything, right? It's,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
a lot of hair on fire stuff. But what a lot of people on the internet or in general just don't understand is how things work when you have corporate IT equipment. Whether
mm,
it's your personal equipment or not, once you've enrolled that piece of equipment in any kind of work environment, whether it's signing into an app or signing into the computer with your user account, in the case of your phone, whether it's a phone that your job gives you or your own phone that you into certain services for your job with, once you do that, they have the ability to take certain actions on those devices. And in almost every case, one of those actions that they can take is wiping the phone or wiping the device.
mm-hmm,
Like I literally do that. I was just setting that up a couple of weeks ago. So it's not, it's not the media, especially social media, will have you believing that this was some kind of mastermind thing, and it's not. I'm sure that the people whose phones were wiped, their personal phones, had their job email. And if you go into Intune, you can go into a device and you can choose to offboard the device in several ways. Most of the ways that you can offboard the device are destructive to data on that device.
right, right. I think one of the things you mentioned is the MDM aspect of this, mobile device management, because that's essentially, and there are a bunch of them out there like Iron, I think it's Mobile Iron, a couple of them as well outside of Intune. But just the fact that we are in this space where this can occur just lets people know like what we spoke about offline, which is you could have the most, well done security, like you could pass all your SOC compliance,
Mhm.
you could do all that stuff, but if you have clients users that are unfortunately not well versed, like they don't know what they're doing and they can't tell somebody is trying to actually access, the system and database and gather information, you're screwed.
Hmm.
You're screwed. Like you're going to have
Well,
major problems.
one of the in my current role, I deal with a lot of vendors, and I have to fill a lot of IT needs. One of these corners of the market that I've seen grow the most over the last 10 years is user training in a security sense, not just
Ninjago.
user train. Okay,
Ninjago.
in
Ninjago.
is that what you guys use?
No, is it Ninjago? No, it's Ninjo. Ninjo. I think that's what it
Ninja.
is.
I've heard of that one before.
Yeah, that's the one.
So the security training we use is the one hopefully we will be using soon is Huntress, but right now we're using Vanta. But there's
Okay.
hundreds of these vendors out there now. A lot of security centric vendors are opening up that as a new add-on to their service. But user training and it's literally the weakest link in the chain. It's always a user. Not Sentinel One, which is the Cloud. Is it CrowdStrike? Yeah,
Yeah.
CrowdStrike about a year and a half ago, something like that. They crashed a couple of million machines around the world,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I believe that
it
was
all
was that
happened.
last year?
It was sometime within the last 2 years
Yeah.
maximum.
Yeah, that
But
was last year.
they issued a patch, and the problem was is that the whoever was in charge of the final check didn't put it through all the checks and issued it. And it
Mm.
when it went online, it crashed every system.
I do think that that's insane though. We have to be do we do have to do our due diligence. People have to be more careful. Again, this is the tech part of our conversation, folks, where
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend people just try their best to stay abreast of all the new software that you may need to update to. I
Mm-hmm.
know there are a lot of people that'll push back and go, well, I don't like updating my phone. I don't like updating my laptop and all these other things, but I'm
We don't
guaranteed,
live in that world anymore.
yeah, you can try to do that if you want, but there's a possibility that if a zero strike comes up, a 0 day comes up, and
Mm-hmm.
you didn't update, you're going to have a
You're
major
done.
problem. Yeah, you're going to have a major
Well, and the
problem.
thing is even so, what a lot of vendors do now is they make their software less functional if you don't take updates.
Correct.
They
Correct.
almost force you into taking updates. As Kujo just said, the worst thing you could do is not take an update nowadays, even if it may not run perfectly on your device at first.
Hmm.
Whoever issues the update is going to issue a patch for it. But if you don't take the initial update, then whatever vulnerabilities were being addressed in that update, you're going to be susceptible to. And just because it's not a vulnerability today doesn't mean in a month it won't be. That's the whole
Correct.
idea behind the 0 day. It's a new exploit. Typically, exploits come up in unpatched software.
Yep. So
Like I
you could.
said, it's not that world anymore. Hold on, and you can testify to this. There was a time where you could choose to not take updates, and it really wasn't a problem.
Hmm.
Right? Windows 7, you really didn't have to take the updates. It ain't like that no more.
No, those days are gone. You do have to be very mindful and careful of this because ultimately there are going to be people out there, bad faith actors that are going to take advantage
Mhm.
110% because they can't wait for stuff like this because they'll have access to everything from you. And that's fundamentally the key, to have access to everything from you. So just bear that in mind, man. But this is again, another aspect of war because I hope everybody knows war is no longer just fought with bullets and guns. It is way more complicated than that.
See, and you're talking about hackers right now, right? And your analogy towards war, the technology that our governments, going back to Israel and some of their software, the technology that our governments have is insane.
Hmm.
So not to go too far, of course, but ICE has software that can crack phones without you doing anything.
Correct. Correct.
Anything. You
Correct.
don't have to do anything, and your phone can get cracked.
And we're going to have a conversation on this, a deeper conversation on this that I think people will definitely like. we'll put that at the forefront of the tech conversation and we'll put the other stuff to the back. But it's also political, folks, very political.
Hmm.
Finish what you were saying, sir.
No, no, just the kind of tech that our governments are using against us makes the things that hackers are able to do look like nothing.
Percent. And five traditional domains of war, folks. Modern military people understand this. Land, which is obviously the army, ground forces, etc. Sea, maritime law, naval, submarines, etc. Air, of course, now we got these drones, they're everywhere, as
Hmm.
well as aircraft, and air combat, space, satellites,
Hmm.
GPS, missiles. And I'm pretty sure we got lasers up there too. And last but not least, which is what Bad Guy brought up, which is extremely important, cyber, hacking, digital espionage, infrastructure disruption, which is very devastating because we're talking about possibilities of people even shutting down entire power grids. Just
Hmm.
keep that in mind.
Well, think about what connects all the other forms that you mentioned: your
Hmm.
electronics, your
Yep.
cyber, your
Hmm.
communications. Because that's at the end of the day, that's what cyber is, right?
Yeah.
Communications and the ability to disrupt those communications.
Hmm.
And the thing that ties it all together that makes us supposedly such a lethal fighting force is the ability to communicate.
Right. 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 There's a big space there that's extremely dangerous that I hope people realize this, but since this regime came into office, they actually cut the budget for cyber and actually minimized them tremendously.
They cut the budget for cyber like they did in a lot of departments. They got rid of
Yeah.
the actual people who were in those departments making a
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
But specifically in the case of our national cybersecurity stance, they did shelf that. They like really,
Yes, correct.
I mean, I think almost to the point of malfeasance. They
Yeah.
really threw a wrench in our cybersecurity game.
It's hard not to see this as some type of controlled demolition when it comes to the way what they're doing with America and the government aspect. It seems like they're going to ride this sucker and roll it straight off the cliff. They don't care, no wheels or not.
Controlled demolition, but also a bit of a selling off of the commons.
Yeah, yeah. Sell, sell everything in this mother flower.
Yeah,
Sell the
because
bathtub,
dude,
the sink with the baby in it. For real.
what we were just saying with the with all the vendors I was talking about. Overall, the biggest growth sector, especially if you're talking about for vendors that MSPs are dealing with, is security.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was last year. It was the year before. There's a huge conference for MSPs every year called Right of Boom. Boom being bad incident, right of it being after bad incident. Because
Gotcha.
there's always going to be a bad incident.
Gotcha. Gotcha. There's a lot of there's a lot of stuff we're going to discuss when it comes to this. I do want to continue this conversation a little bit more down the line. And I also want to double back, or we'll go back a little later on earlier because the conversation even about trading when it comes to Israel and
Hmm.
them committing a genocide and the fact that in Nazi Germany back then, there were also countries trading with Nazi Germany, knowing what they were doing while they were committing genocide.
There
Funny
were
how.
American there were American businesses
Mhm.
running the factories in Nazi Germany that were creating the automobiles and airplane engines that they used to fight the Allied forces.
And some of them were, yeah, they were American business. That's crazy when you think about it.
Ford Motor Company tried to sue the United States for damage done to their Nazi Germany factories by the Allied forces.
Insane. Insane. Yep.
You have to love America, bro.
Yeah. Capitalism at its finest, my friend.
Dude, it's the only place in the world where you would even be able to get that in the court. Like everywhere else in the world, they would look at you and be like, "What?"
Get the fuck out of here. Just get out of here. Before we lock this fool up over here, yo. This
Right? No, I
clown.
mean you were cooperating with the enemy, bro. Why
Yeah.
aren't we locking you up? Forget
Yeah.
about talking about paying
Yeah.
you back for your damages.
Yeah, but this is what goes back to, again, holding people accountable, right? And we speak about this quite frequently, and it's something that doesn't happen. And because this cyber attack took place, Is there somebody to blame? Yes, there definitely was a bad faith actor, but there also was somebody that obviously did not do some of the lessons that were probably inside of the training programs that that company offers.
The
So,
problem is, the real scary part is that the person who got breached most likely had some control over the same programs that they used to train their end users. I mean,
yeah,
dude, if you got
it's
to
possible.
understand, if you did, so if you were like a non global admin, I would have to give you a handful of different permissions specifically to do what this person did,
Hmm.
right? I would have to give you definitely read and view over all devices, and then add and remove over all devices in Intune specifically. So, it's not just something that you turn on for a person. There's thought to it, and whoever had that ability had to have earned it. It's not something you give to a day one guy.
Somebody gave him the rights, so hey, somebody needs to get
Whew,
checked for that.
man, somebody got fired, boy.
Like
And I,
shit.
I don't know 100% sure, but I'm glad to record this, post it, and let somebody call me on it in the future. I am 99% sure somebody's credentials got fished.
Yeah, for sure. That's a big possibility. Big possibility. We'll see. There'll probably be more information on it as things
Mm-hmm.
progress, you know? In the Cypher podcast, folks, like, share, subscribe, and keep tuning in. We got one last thing I want to discuss. I want to talk about Jack Harlow, man. The unbearable being of emceeing while you're white. Like that is it's just tough, bruh. It's tough. And this dude Jack Harlow is switching up, doing some different stuff now, and it's just this hands down whack, man. Like,
I honestly don't know very much about Harlow. I do know, I believe it's his grandfather was a very well known salsa and Latin jazz musician.
mm,
That's his industry roots.
mm,
And I do know that for a few years I saw that fucking guy everywhere.
yeah, that's
Everywhere there was a black space, he was the white guy in it.
yeah. It's painful. It's painful, man.
I
It's
mean,
painful.
there's always one, but I guess it's bad when the industry has so many plants in whatever subset of the industry you're into, but when they start just planting white people, like, and me and you will never have an agreement on certain MCs, right? But at least there's some talent, right? We might not be able to agree on whatever it is, but this dude don't even got the talent.
See, the thing is, though, man, this is funny, right? But the thing is that because of artists like Eminem, we are more willing to open up the door and say, "Hey, let's see what are these other rap artists got." And then we got,
I do not disagree with that. I
and then we
don't.
got, but wait, we got Mac Miller. And Mac Miller was talented, and he had his own kind of style to him. Like, people could say he jacked it from this, that, in person, but that
No,
was
but he
the
had
kind
his
of
own lane.
yeah,
Mac
he had
Miller
his
had
own
his own
lane
lane.
and he stayed in his lane and
Yeah.
he didn't switch it up, become a country singer. He didn't switch it up and start doing reggae. He didn't switch it up and do anything. He just stayed with
No,
what
no, but
worked
that's
with
the
him.
thing. That's the thing is that a lot of these white artists, hip hop is a springboard for them. Post
Correct.
Malone,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
I'm not. I was gonna call him Jellyfish. I'm not saying Jelly Roll was hip hop or wasn't or had anything, but his aesthetic, his demeanor, his attitude is very hip hop. He might be a country artist, but his whole if I know I'm going to piss somebody off with this one. If your aesthetic is ghetto, I'm not saying poor, I'm not saying white trash. If your aesthetic is ghetto, your aesthetic is black. You've adopted something that you assume signifies a certain group that you're trying to appropriate their culture, when what it is that group is just speaking about their condition that they know. You're assuming that that's a style and you're trying to steal it. So most of these white music artists that have that quote unquote ghetto appeal are trying to appropriate the condition that many black people in this country find themselves living in.
I think one of the things that you make a good point here is when we're talking about these basically cultural appropriation. And there's another word they call for it. They call it slumming, where
Yep. Yep.
people come down to, and this is what they used to do in New York City. They used to come to the Cotton Club and all these other places to
Hmm.
hang out where the black folks are and go party with them because that's where the space where they could let loose the most. Because
You don't even got to go all the way back to the Cotton Club, dude. When me and you were growing up,
yeah, well, the
how
Cotton
many
Club is
clubs in the city?
Cotton
No,
Club
no,
is
I
far
know.
back.
No, I'm saying, but you don't even need to go all the way back to there. You could go back to in the 90s and the 2000s where you would be in the city and you would have kids coming from religiously coming from out of town to chill in the city for
Yeah,
the aesthetic.
yeah,
But then that night they back up in the city. They're back.
yeah. That was a big thing, man. It's still a big thing right now because
Hmm.
I've heard from people that I work with that, yeah, coming to the city when I was young, blah, 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 was a thing. But that's
Hmm.
because it gave them access to people that they never may have never had access to.
Yep.
And you could take that from a standpoint that, if a white boy comes into certain spaces that are predominantly black, he may or may not be welcome, and or she may or may not be welcomed as well. It's all dependent, but for the most part, we're welcoming people as long as you're cool. That's
Hmm.
really the whole deal. If you cool, we're cool. But I do think that the fact that we gave so many people grace and allowed them in the back door, and
To
then
get
they
stabbed in the back.
yeah, then they come in and then they do what they want to do and then turn around and go, man, forget this culture. This is whack. I mean, I don't like hip hop no more. It's outdated. Like we've seen it time and time again.
Well,
So
but they're just justifying what I said right there, right? Which
yeah.
is for them, it's a fashion, which fashion changes over time. Um, dude, even before fucking Post Malone ever switched up, or whatever you want to call it, when I heard how he came, was it him that came up with his name in a fucking rap name generator? I was like, oh, this nigga's not even serious, bro. It's like you're not even. Meanwhile, hold on. Let me be a hypocrite because I'm pretty sure that's how what's his name, Selfish Gambino, came up
Mm,
with his name in a rap name generator.
really?
Yeah, but you know what? One of them has talent. One of them. I'm not gonna say Post Malone ain't talented, but I think he's more of a chameleon.
Yeah.
Like he was that kid in school that was good at music and just went with whatever was the dope music to him at the time.
Mhm. Mhm. And he made off like a fat cat. That's
Hell yeah.
110% because he traveled, he made his money, and here he is now. Like he's still doing his thing, you know.
See, and then
So
you got to ask the question: would he be as popular with them right now had he not come from the space he came from?
I don't know.
Is his crossing over not adding to his appeal? He came back. He knew what the right side was. He came back and did our kind of music.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, you
yeah.
got to remember these are the people that lose their shit over who does the Super Bowl this year, right? And this is what we were talking about earlier. It's the smallest, pettiest little perceptions of power are so meaningful to the people who have the most power because they value it the most. I don't necessarily want power. I want equity. I want equality, right? Power corrupts. I understand that. So I would like more power over my own individual self, but I don't desire power over people. It corrupts. But
Yeah.
when you have power and you feel even a little bit of it slip, the thought of more and more being lost scares you and you react a certain.
I think for me it's the attitude that people have when they accumulate the power. I think in ancient times, and this is something people can go look it up, liberal arts and the whole aspect of being a learned person back then was also to learn what to do when you acquire power. That was one of the main teaching points is like when you get this power, here is the moral compass or here is the space that you should be in when you acquire this power. This is how you treat people that are financially or royalty wise not above you, they're beneath you. You understand what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm,
that was
mm-hmm.
something that was taught. Now that has been thrown to the side. That facade of like actually caring about people and being a philanthropist, that's thrown to the side. And
Yeah,
people
yeah.
are only philanthropists now to make sure that they don't have to pay so much in taxes.
Well, I don't. Was
Not
there?
everybody, not everybody,
No,
but
no, I'm not. I'm not going to argue with you about the now. I was going to argue with about about the then. As far back as I can remember, philanthropy has been an exercise in public self masturbation or mutual masturbation. Oh, we're so good. We all donate to this great cause, right? And a great way to write off taxes.
yeah,
So it's a let's pat each other on the backathon,
yeah.
and a tax shelter. I won't get into the philosophical side of it, but Jesus didn't like the people who did shit like that, right?
Yeah, 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 I
So
agree, I agree.
right, and I mean, look, if it's like these people that go on social media and videotape or video, that's how old I am, record themselves handing out food to the poor. Would you even be doing that if you weren't trying to get the attention? That kind of disqualifies it. Great, you fed some people, but you're trying to go viral off of it. So you're doing, if you have an ulterior motive, kind of disqualifies it.
It's a good argument you make. And the funny thing is about that, I will say two things. I will say that while I agree with what you're saying, the lesser of two evils in this part would be
Hmm.
the other side of the person not donating anything at
Yeah,
all.
no, no, you're not
But
wrong. You're not wrong.
I would like to see more people donate. I'll be honest with you. I do like to see that in general. I feel like for me, I welcome it because I think that image of people giving and just giving out of sheer like, yo, I want to give. And yes, it's me giving, but yeah, I want to give. I think I'd rather see more videos like that than people fighting. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just
Yeah,
how it
no,
is.
no, no, no.
So I
Don't get
agree.
me wrong.
No, I agree with you though.
There's guys that I see doing it online, and I understand he's making a living off of it. But it is dope to see somebody come out and feed 25 homeless people, right, with
Yeah,
nice, good food and shit.
I
And
agree.
the one that I watch, what is cool about it sometimes, not sometimes, what he always does is he's going to these local food trucks and shit, these local vendors
Yeah, the
to get the
vendors.
food.
Oh, I think
So it
you
is
watching the same cat I'm watching.
yeah, it is dope. Don't get me wrong. And honestly, I was thinking more about these.
What you got?
You got a lot of these young creators where I guess they're not making such a full circle out of it like the guy we're talking about. They're just like going out and giving stuff away, but recording themselves do it. And it's like, that's not, it's not really, you're just trying to shine a little. But
Yeah.
my thing with philanthropy is, this is more of a high society thing where I appreciate the money that y'all are donating to the cause, but when so much of it goes to paying the salaries for the people who wind up throwing you these big parties,
Mm.
how much of that could have been used in a better way?
Yeah, the big galas that donate money and all that other stuff. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
suspect. It is suspect. I do think one of the things that you mentioned about giving and giving for the sake of looking for the attention of being a good person or just doing the right thing supposedly, I think is a big thing that people don't understand when it comes to even the fact that they're giving and they get like notoriety for it. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for that pat on the back that
Yeah. That's
you're a
my
good
thing.
person. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. Absolutely. I do think
Like
that that's problematic.
one of the things I used to do with my kids when I was up in New York is for Thanksgiving, we would always wind up cooking way more than we needed. There was one specific homeless dude that we would give food to every holiday, but that was like a thing that we would do: make a couple of plates and give them to a few homeless people. But it was never, I never did it uh, to put it online or to make a big deal about it. I didn't, go to a fundraiser and go to a soup kitchen where the news was going to be, and try to get on TV doing a good deed, right? I just did it because it was the first person, the first specific homeless person I was giving it to was guilt by proxy. It was this homeless dude that was homeless when I was a kid, and my ex-girlfriend sprayed hairspray in his eyes one day when he asked for some change.
Mm,
Yo, she was,
wow. Damn.
yeah, she was a piece of work. This Italian girl.
Mm, mm.
Yeah, I've mentioned some of her other feats
Esca-
of inhumanity before.
escapades. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Got you, man.
But
I got you.
So that was like kind of a sideways guilt thing. I would always give him cigarettes when I pulled up and he was on begging by the highway. So that, but that kind of like became a little thing with me and my kids, but never for anything else than to teach my kids a good lesson at the
Mm,
most, right? But when you're doing it to show society and your other rich friends what a good person you are you really being a good person?
mm,
I'll take the money, like you said, as a charity. I'll take the money.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I got you, man. I got you, bro. I co-sign that 110%. I think we do have to make some adjustment there. But that being said, let's you want to just wrap things up? What you got? What you think?
No, no, I think we could wrap it up, man. We covered a lot of ground today. I definitely think we'll be revisiting some of these cybersecurity issues in the
Mm-hmm.
coming weeks. It's not going to get no easier.
Nah.
Iran is very, very well known for their offensive cyber capabilities.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we'll hear and see things coming from Israel as well, and we'll see what happens with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
So, yeah, when it happens, people, we will be here to talk about it.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Again, like, share, subscribe in the Cypher podcast, folks. We're about to wrap it up. We just say peace and blessings for the rest of your week. Hope everything is good for y'all. Enjoy, man.
Peace, everybody.
All right.